The morning sun reflected off the glass walls of Sterling Tower, making it shine like a beacon in the heart of Manhattan. The building stood 60 stories high, a monument to wealth and power. Inside, the air smelled of expensive coffee and ambition. Everyone who worked there knew they were part of something big, something that mattered in the world of finance. Marcus Chen sat in his corner office on the 58th floor, looking down at the city below. He was the CEO of Sterling Financial Group, a company worth over $3 billion. At 42 years old, he had everything a man could want: a penthouse apartment, a collection of luxury cars, and a reputation that made competitors nervous. His face had been on the cover of Forbes magazine 3 times. Marcus believed in one simple rule: the strong survive and the weak get left behind. He had clawed his way up from a middle-class background, working 80-hour weeks, stepping over anyone who got in his way. Now that he was at the top, he expected everyone else to fight just as hard. He had no patience for excuses, no sympathy for weakness. His assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Chen, the new interns are arriving today." Marcus barely looked up from his computer. "Send me their files. I want to know who we're dealing with." 20 floors below in the lobby, a young man rolled his wheelchair through the revolving doors. His name was Jordan Matthews, and today was supposed to be the beginning of his dream. At 23 years old, Jordan had graduated top of his class from Columbia University with a degree in financial analytics. Getting this internship at Sterling Financial had been the hardest thing he had ever accomplished. Jordan had been born with spina bifida, a condition that affected his spine and left him unable to walk. He had spent his entire life proving that his wheelchair did not define his capabilities, while other kids played sports. Jordan had taught himself programming while they went to parties. He studied market trends and economic theory. He had something to prove, not just to the world but to himself. The lobby was intimidating, all marble floors and chrome fixtures, reflecting the faces of people in expensive suits rushing past. Jordan took a deep breath and rolled toward the security desk. "Jordan Matthews, I'm here for the intern program," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The security guard checked his list and nodded. 52nd floor. "You'll need this badge." As Jordan waited for the elevator, he noticed people staring. Some looked away quickly when he caught their eye. Others studied him with expressions he could not quite read. He was used to it by now, but it still made his stomach tight. The elevator doors opened and a woman in a sharp blazer stepped aside to let him in. "Thank you," Jordan said. She smiled genuinely. "Good luck on your first day." Those simple words meant more than she could know. On the 52nd floor, Jordan found the intern orientation room. 12 other young people sat around a conference table, all looking nervous and excited. When Jordan rolled in, the conversation stopped for just a moment. He pretended not to notice and found a spot at the table. A woman in her 50s entered the room. Her name tag read Patricia Morrison, Director of Human Resources. "Welcome to Sterling Financial Group," she began, her voice warm but professional. "You 12 have been selected from over 5,000 applicants. You are the best and the brightest. However, I will be honest with you, this internship is not easy. We expect excellence, we expect dedication, and we expect you to learn fast." She went through the basics: work hours, dress code, company policies. Jordan took notes on his tablet, absorbing every detail. "You will be assigned to different departments based on your skills and interests," Patricia continued. "Your performance over the next 3 months will determine whether you receive a job offer. Questions?" A young man raised his hand. "Will we meet Mr. Chen?" Patricia's expression shifted slightly, something Jordan could not quite interpret. "Mr. Chen takes a personal interest in our intern program. Yes, you will meet him after the orientation." The interns were given a tour of the building. Jordan struggled with some of the doors, but he managed. He had learned long ago to adapt, to find solutions, to never ask for help unless absolutely necessary. By lunchtime, Jordan felt exhausted but hopeful. He had made it through the morning. He belonged here. His skills would speak for themselves. He had no idea that his biggest challenge was not the work itself. It was the man on the 58th floor, the man who believed weakness had no place in his company, the man who was about to make Jordan's life a living nightmare. Marcus Chen was reviewing the intern files when he saw Jordan's photo. He stared at it for a long moment, then closed the folder with more force than necessary. "A wheelchair," he muttered to himself. This is a mistake. Jordan arrived at Sterling Tower at 7:30 the next morning. An hour before he was required to be there, he had barely slept, his mind racing with possibilities and fears. The night had been filled with preparations, laying out his best suit, charging his tablet, reviewing his notes about Sterling Financial's recent market performance. He wanted to be ready for anything. The building felt different in the early morning, quieter, almost peaceful. A few senior employees passed through the lobby, their faces buried in their phones, absorbed in their own worlds. Jordan made his way to the 52nd floor, where the intern workspace had been set up. The room was a large open area with 12 desks arranged in neat rows. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the Manhattan skyline. Jordan chose a desk near the window, positioning his wheelchair so he could easily reach everything he needed. He pulled out his laptop and began reviewing the assignment Patricia had sent the night before. They were supposed to analyze a struggling tech company's financial reports and present recommendations. It was a test, Jordan knew, a way to see who could think critically under pressure. He dove into the numbers, his fingers flying across the keyboard, creating spreadsheets, building models, finding patterns that others might miss by 8:30. The other interns started trickling in. A young woman with red hair sat at the desk next to Jordan's. "Hi, I'm Rebecca," she said, extending her hand. "Looks like you got an early start." Jordan shook her hand, grateful for the friendly approach. Jordan, and yeah, I wanted to get ahead on this assignment. "It's pretty complex," Rebecca laughed. "That's an understatement. I spent 3 hours on it last night and barely scratched the surface." Over the next hour, Jordan met the other interns. Most were friendly, curious about his background and expertise. A few were more reserved, competitive, viewing everyone else as potential threats to their future job offers. Jordan understood. In a place like Sterling Financial, only the strongest would survive at 10 o'clock. Patricia entered the room with a man Jordan had not met before. He was tall and lean, probably in his late 30s, with silver-rimmed glasses and an expression that suggested permanent disapproval. "Good morning, everyone," Patricia said. "This is Richard Blackwood, Senior Vice President of Operations. He will be overseeing your department assignments and performance evaluations." Richard's eyes scanned the room, pausing briefly on each intern. When his gaze landed on Jordan, something flickered across his face, a micro-expression that Jordan had seen too many times before, doubt mixed with discomfort. "I expect professionalism and results," Richard said, his voice clipped and cold. "Sterling Financial did not become a $3 billion company by accepting mediocrity. You will be assigned mentors from our senior analyst team, learn from them, impress them, or find another company." He pulled out a tablet and began reading names, pairing interns with their assigned mentors. Jordan listened carefully, waiting for his name. "Jordan Matthews," Richard finally said, not looking up from his screen. "You will be working under Derek Santos in quantitative analysis." Jordan felt a surge of excitement. Quantitative analysis was exactly where he wanted to be, where his mathematical skills and programming abilities could shine. The morning continued with individual meetings with their mentors. Derek Santos turned out to be a sharp-minded analyst in his early 30s, covered in tattoos that peeked out from under his rolled-up sleeves. He seemed more interested in results than appearances. "So, Jordan," Derek said, leaning back in his chair, "tell me what you bring to the table." Jordan did not hesitate. "I have a master's-level understanding of statistical modeling. I can code in Python, R, and SQL, and I have published 2 papers on predictive algorithms for market volatility. I am here to learn, but I am also here to contribute." Derek raised an eyebrow. "Impressed? Confident? I like that. Let me see what you have got on that tech company assignment." Jordan pulled up his analysis on his laptop, showing Derek the models he had built, the patterns he had identified, the recommendations he had formulated. Derek studied the screen in silence for several minutes. "This is graduate-level work," Derek finally said. "How long did this take you?" "About 2 hours this morning," Jordan replied. Derek whistled softly. "All right, Matthews. I think we are going to work well together. Let me show you what we are really working on." The rest of the morning flew by. Jordan absorbed information like a sponge, learning about the company's proprietary trading algorithms, risk assessment models, and client portfolio management systems. He felt alive, energized, exactly where he was supposed to be. At noon, Patricia's voice came over the intercom. "All interns, Please report to the 58th floor conference room, mister. Chen would like to meet you. Jordan's heart jumped. This was it. The moment he would meet the legendary Marcus Chen. He had read every article about the man, studied his business philosophy, admired his rise from nothing to everything. The interns gathered in the elevator, nervous energy filling the small space. Rebecca caught Jordan's eye and gave him an encouraging smile. When the elevator doors opened on the 58th floor, Jordan's breath caught. The executive level was stunning, all dark wood and leather. Artwork that probably cost more than most people's houses. A secretary directed them to the conference room. Jordan rolled in behind the others, positioning himself at the table. Then Marcus Chen walked in, and everything changed. Marcus Chen entered the conference room with the confidence of a man who owned everything he touched. His tailored suit probably cost more than Jordan's entire semester tuition. His shoes were polished to a mirror shine, and his watch caught the light with every movement, a Swiss timepiece worth 6 figures. He carried himself like royalty surveying his kingdom. The interns straightened in their chairs. Some smiled nervously. Others tried to look composed and professional. Jordan sat quietly, observing, studying the man he had admired from afar. Marcus did not sit down. Instead, he stood at the head of the table, his hands clasped behind his back, his eyes moving from face to face, evaluating, judging, calculating each person's worth in seconds. I built this company with my bare hands, Marcus began, his voice smooth but carrying an edge of steel. 20 years ago, I had nothing. No family money, no connections, no silver spoon. Just intelligence, determination, and the willingness to do whatever it took to succeed. He paused, letting his words sink in. I did not get here by making excuses. I did not get here by asking for special treatment. I got here by being better than everyone else, by working harder, by refusing to accept limitations. His eyes swept the room again. That is what I expect from everyone in this company. Excellence without compromise, strength without weakness. Jordan felt a chill run down his spine. Something about the way Marcus emphasized those last words felt personal, directed. You 12 were chosen because your resume suggested potential, Marcus continued. But potential means nothing without execution. I have seen countless talented people fail because they could not handle the pressure, because they made excuses, because they expected the world to accommodate them. His gaze finally landed on Jordan, and for a moment time seemed to freeze. In my company, we do not lower the bar for anyone, Marcus said, still looking directly at Jordan. We do not make special allowances. We do not adjust our standards. You either meet the requirements or you leave. It is that simple. The other interns shifted uncomfortably. Some glanced at Jordan, then quickly looked away. The message was clear, unmistakable, and humiliating. Jordan felt heat rising in his chest, spreading to his face. His hands gripped the armrests of his wheelchair. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, to tell this arrogant man that he had not asked for special treatment, that he had worked twice as hard as anyone else just to be here. But he stayed silent, professional. He would not give Marcus the satisfaction of seeing him react. Marcus turned away from Jordan, addressing the group again. You will receive your first major project tomorrow. It will be challenging. It will require long hours and creative thinking. Those who succeed will move forward. Those who fail, he paused deliberately, will be released from the program. No second chances. He walked toward the door, then stopped, turning back one more time. One more thing, Marcus said, his voice colder now. If any of you cannot handle the physical demands of this job, if you cannot keep up with the pace, if you need accommodations that slow down the team, I suggest you reconsider your place here now. Sterling Financial is not a charity, we are a machine, and every part must function at peak efficiency. The silence that followed was suffocating. Marcus left the room, and for several seconds, no one moved, no one spoke. Then Rebecca reached over and touched Jordan's arm gently. That was not okay, she whispered. Jordan did not trust himself to speak. He simply nodded, gathering his things. The ride down the elevator was awkward. The other interns tried to act normal, talking about the upcoming project, but their voices sounded forced, artificial. When they reached the 52nd floor, Jordan went straight to his desk. He needed to be alone, to process what had just happened. Derek appeared 20 minutes later, his face tight with anger. I heard what happened upstairs, Derek said quietly, sitting on the edge of Jordan's desk. That was completely out of line. Chen has no right to talk to you that way. "It is fine," Jordan said automatically, the words he had trained himself to say his entire life. "No, it is not fine," Derek insisted. "That was discrimination, plain and simple. You should report this to HR." Jordan shook his head. "And then what, Derek? I become the intern who could not handle criticism. The one who ran to HR on his second day. That will destroy any chance I have here." "You have rights," Derek argued. "Rights do not matter if I do not have respect," Jordan replied, his voice harder than he intended. "I need to prove myself through my work. That is the only way this works." Derek studied him for a long moment, then sighed. "You are tougher than I thought. All right. Let me show you this new project Chen mentioned. If you want to prove yourself through work, I will help you blow everyone else out of the water." Over the next 3 hours, Derek briefed Jordan on the project. It was complex. A complete financial restructuring proposal for a major client. The kind of work that usually took senior analysts weeks to complete. They were giving the interns 5 days. Jordan threw himself into the work, his fingers flying across the keyboard, building models, running simulations. Testing theories, the numbers became his refuge. His weapon, his proof. He stayed late that night, long after the other interns had gone home. The cleaning staff worked around him, vacuuming, emptying trash cans. Barely noticing his presence at 11:30, Jordan finally saved his work and headed toward the elevator. His shoulders ached from hunching over his laptop. His eyes burned from staring at screens. The elevator doors opened on the ground floor, and Jordan rolled through the empty lobby. The night security guard nodded at him. Outside, the city was still alive, taxis honking, people laughing as they left bars and restaurants. Jordan waited for his accessible car service, staring up at Sterling Tower. Somewhere up there on the 58th floor, Marcus Chen probably sat in his expensive office, never thinking twice about the young man he had humiliated. But Jordan was thinking, planning, preparing. He would show Marcus Chen exactly what he was capable of. The next morning arrived with gray clouds hanging low over Manhattan, threatening rain that never quite fell. Jordan had managed only 4 hours of sleep, his mind too wired with calculations and strategies to rest properly. He arrived at Sterling Tower before sunrise, determined to refine his project proposal until it was absolutely flawless. The intern workspace was empty and silent. Jordan appreciated the solitude, the chance to work without curious eyes watching his every move. He pulled up his financial models, checking each formula, verifying each assumption, building contingency plans for every possible question or challenge. By 8 o'clock. He had created something remarkable. A restructuring proposal that would save the client company $12 million over 3 years, while increasing operational efficiency by 37%. The numbers were solid, backed by data and proven methodologies. This was not just intern-level work. This was the kind of analysis that senior consultants charged hundreds of thousands of dollars to produce. Derek arrived at 8:15, coffee in hand, his eyes still heavy with sleep. When he saw Jordan already working, he shook his head in amazement. "Did you even go home last night?" Derek asked. "For a few hours," Jordan replied, not looking up from his screen. "I wanted to make sure this was perfect." Derek walked around to look at Jordan's monitor. His eyebrows rose as he scrolled through the analysis. "Matthews, this is incredible. Where did you learn to build models like this?" "I taught myself," Jordan said simply. "When you spend your childhood in hospitals and rehabilitation centers, you have a lot of time to study." Derek was quiet for a moment, then said, "You are going to make everyone else look bad. You know that, right?" Jordan allowed himself a small smile. "That is the idea." At 9:30, Patricia's voice came through the intercom. "All interns, please report to conference room B. You will be presenting your proposals to the executive team." Jordan's stomach tightened. He had not expected to present to executives. He thought they would simply submit written reports, but this was better. This was his chance to show Marcus Chen exactly what he was capable of. The interns gathered outside conference room B, all clutching laptops and tablets, their faces pale with nervousness. Rebecca caught Jordan's eye and mouthed the words, "Good luck." Jordan nodded his thanks. Richard Blackwood opened the door. "Come in. You will each have 10 minutes to present. Questions will follow. Mr. Chen will be joining us shortly." The conference room was intimidating. A massive oval table dominated the space, surrounded by leather chairs that probably cost more than most cars. One entire wall was glass, offering a panoramic view of the city. The other walls displayed abstract art that Jordan suspected was worth millions. 5 senior executives sat along one side of the table, their expressions unreadable, professional poker faces honed by decades of high-stakes negotiations. Jordan recognized 2 of them from company press releases, the chief financial officer and the chief operating officer. The presentations began. Each intern stood at the front of the room, projecting their slides onto a massive screen, nervously explaining their proposals. The executives listened politely, asked a few probing questions, made notes on their tablets. Jordan was scheduled to present 5th. He watched the others carefully, noting what worked and what did not, observing how the executives reacted to different presentation styles. Then Marcus Chen walked in. He did not apologize for being late. He simply took his seat at the head of the table, nodded to Richard and said, "Continue." The 4th intern, a young man named Tyler, stumbled through the rest of his presentation, clearly rattled by Marcus's presence when he finished. Marcus asked a single question that exposed a fundamental flaw in Tyler's analysis. The young man's face went red as he struggled to answer. "Next," Marcus said, dismissing him. "Jordan Matthews," Richard announced. Jordan took a deep breath and rolled to the front of the room. He had prepared for this. He had anticipated every question, every challenge. He connected his laptop to the projection system and pulled up his first slide. "Good morning," Jordan began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "My proposal focuses on operational restructuring combined with strategic debt refinancing. Based on current market conditions and the client's specific circumstances, I have identified opportunities for significant cost savings without compromising growth potential." He walked them through his analysis, explaining complex financial concepts in clear, accessible language. His slides were clean and professional, supporting his points without overwhelming them with unnecessary data. He cited specific examples, referenced recent market trends, demonstrated deep understanding of both theory and practical application. The executives leaned forward, actually engaged, even interested. Jordan saw one of them nodding as he explained his debt refinancing strategy. Then Marcus Chen spoke for the first time. "Mr. Matthews," Marcus said, his tone sharp as broken glass. "This is very impressive work. Almost too impressive for a second-day intern." Jordan felt the shift in the room immediately. The air grew heavier, dangerous. "Are you suggesting I did not do this myself?" Jordan asked carefully. Marcus leaned back in his chair, studying Jordan with cold eyes. "I am suggesting that someone in your position might have had help, might have needed assistance with the physical demands of research, the late nights, the intensive computer work." The insult hung in the air like poison gas. "With all due respect, Mr. Chen," Jordan said, his voice tight but controlled, "my position is that of a qualified analyst with a degree from Columbia University and published research in financial modeling. My wheelchair has nothing to do with my intellectual capabilities." "Does it not?" Marcus challenged. "This field requires long hours, physical stamina, the ability to work under intense pressure without special accommodations. I am simply questioning whether you can sustain this level of output." Richard Blackwood shifted uncomfortably. The other executives exchanged glances, clearly disturbed by the direction this conversation had taken. "My work speaks for itself," Jordan said firmly. "Perhaps," Marcus replied, "or perhaps Derek Santos has been doing your work for you. I am aware you two have spent considerable time together." Derek, who had been standing in the back of the room observing the presentations, stepped forward. "That is absolutely false. Every bit of that analysis is Jordan's work. I reviewed it, but he created it." Marcus ignored him, his eyes still locked on Jordan. "I think we need to verify the authenticity of this work, Mr. Matthews. You will redo this entire analysis tonight, in a conference room where we can monitor you. Alone, if you produce similar quality work, then perhaps I will believe these are truly your capabilities." The room fell silent. Everyone understood what was happening. This was not about verification, this was about humiliation, about breaking Jordan's spirit, about forcing him out. Jordan met Marcus's gaze without flinching. "When and where?" Jordan said quietly. A thin smile crossed Marcus's face. "Tonight, 7 o'clock, conference room D. We will give you a different client, similar complexity. You will have until midnight, 5 hours. Let us see what you can really do." Jordan nodded once. "I will be there." As he rolled out of the conference room, he heard Rebecca whisper to another intern, "This is insane. Someone needs to stop this," but no one did. Jordan spent the afternoon in a strange state of focused calm. While the other interns whispered nervously about what had happened in the conference room, he sat at his desk reviewing financial theory, refreshing his knowledge of complex restructuring models, preparing his mind for whatever challenge Marcus Chen would throw at him. Derek appeared every 30 minutes. Pacing, agitated, barely able to contain his anger. "This is illegal," Derek said for the third time. "He cannot single you out like this. He cannot force you to work unpaid overtime to prove yourself. This is discrimination, pure and simple, Derek," Jordan said patiently, looking up from his screen. "I appreciate your concern. I really do, but this is my battle. If I run to lawyers now, even if I win, I lose. Everyone will always wonder if I could actually do the work, or if I just hid behind legal protection. You should not have to prove yourself like this," Derek insisted. "Maybe not," Jordan agreed, but I am going to anyway. Because when I walk out of that conference room tonight with perfect work, there will be no more questions, no more doubts, just results." Derek stared at him for a long moment, then shook his head. "You have more guts than anyone I have ever met." At 6:45, Jordan made his way to conference room D. The building had emptied out, most employees heading home to their families, their comfortable lives. Only a skeleton crew of security guards and a few workaholics remained. The conference room was smaller than the others, more intimate, which somehow made it feel more oppressive. A single desk sat in the center, a computer already set up and waiting. A camera mounted in the corner pointed directly at the workspace. Marcus was not taking any chances. Richard Blackwood stood by the window, looking uncomfortable when Jordan entered. "Richard would not meet his eyes, Mr. Chen will be here shortly," Richard said stiffly. "He is bringing the client file personally." They waited in awkward silence. Richard checked his phone repeatedly. Jordan simply sat still, conserving his energy, preparing mentally for the marathon ahead. Marcus arrived at 7 o'clock exactly. Carrying a thick manila folder, he placed it on the desk without ceremony. "This is Meridian Manufacturing," Marcus said. "A mid-sized company with $200 million in annual revenue, currently facing bankruptcy. They have supply chain issues, labor disputes, outdated equipment, and crushing debt. Your task is to create a comprehensive turnaround strategy, financial projections, operational recommendations, debt restructuring plan, timeline for implementation, everything." Jordan opened the folder, quickly scanning the documents inside. Balance sheets, profit and loss statements, supplier contracts, union agreements, loan documents. It was a mess. Exactly the kind of complicated disaster that would take a team of consultants months to untangle. 5 hours, Marcus reminded him. "Starting now." 7:05. He pulled out his phone, set a timer, and placed it on the desk where Jordan could see it. Then Marcus did something Jordan had not expected. He sat down in a chair by the wall, settling in as if he planned to stay. "You are going to watch me the entire time?" Jordan asked. "I want to see your process," Marcus replied coldly. "I want to see exactly how you work. No assistance, no outside resources beyond what is in that folder and what is publicly available online. Just you and your supposed genius." Jordan felt a flash of anger but pushed it down. He would not let Marcus get into his head. "Fine," Jordan said, turning to the computer. He started with the financial statements, pulling them up on the screen, building a master spreadsheet that would let him see everything at once. Revenue trends, cost structures, cash flow patterns, debt obligations. As his fingers flew across the keyboard, the numbers began to tell him a story. Meridian Manufacturing was not actually dying from bad management. They were dying from bad timing. They had invested heavily in automation right before a recession hit, taking on debt to modernize their facilities. Then demand dropped, leaving them with expensive new equipment they could not fully utilize and loans they could not service. Jordan's mind raced through possibilities. The core business was sound. The equipment was valuable. The problem was liquidity and market positioning. An hour passed. Jordan barely noticed he was deep in the zone, that mental state where everything else disappeared except the problem in front of him. He built financial models, testing different scenarios. What if they sold the new equipment and leased it back? What if they renegotiated union contracts? What if they pivoted to different markets? Marcus watched in silence, his expression unreadable. 2 hours in, Jordan had the skeleton of a solution. Meridian needed to split into 2 entities, a manufacturing operation and an equipment leasing company. By separating the assets from the operations, They could attract different types of investors, restructure the debt more favorably, and create new revenue streams. He started writing the formal proposal, explaining his logic, showing the numbers, building the timeline. His presentation needed to be crystal clear, leaving no room for misinterpretation or criticism. 3 hours. The timer ticked down. Jordan's back ached from sitting in the same position. His eyes burned from staring at the screen, but his mind stayed sharp, focused. He had done harder things than this. He had learned to walk again after surgeries, learned to navigate a world not built for him. This was just numbers and logic. This he could do 4 hours. Jordan was formatting his final presentation, adding charts and graphs, making sure every calculation was verified, every assumption clearly stated. He could feel Marcus's eyes on him, watching his every move, but he refused to let it distract him. At 4 hours and 43 minutes, Jordan saved the final document. He had finished with 17 minutes to spare. He leaned back in his wheelchair, allowing himself a moment to breathe. "Done," he said quietly. Marcus stood up slowly, walking to the desk. He picked up the timer, studied it, then looked at Jordan. "Show me," Marcus commanded. Jordan pulled up his presentation, walking Marcus through each section, explaining his analysis, defending his recommendations, answering questions before they were even asked. The presentation took 20 minutes. When Jordan finished, the room fell into heavy silence. Marcus studied the screen, scrolling through the pages, checking calculations, reading footnotes, looking for flaws, weaknesses, anything he could use to dismiss or diminish what Jordan had created. Finally, Marcus spoke, his voice strange, almost quiet. "This is exceptional work," he admitted. "This is senior consultant level analysis. I have seen firms charge $500,000 for proposals less comprehensive than this." Jordan waited, knowing there was more coming. "But," Marcus continued, his tone hardening, "exceptional work does not change reality. This company cannot afford to make accommodations, cannot afford to slow down for anyone, regardless of their talents. You have proven your analytical skills, I will give you that. But you have not proven you can function in the real world of this business." Richard Blackwood, who had been silent the entire time, finally spoke up. "Marcus, this is enough," Richard said, his voice tight with barely controlled anger. "You are creating a liability for this company. What you are doing is illegal and it is wrong." Marcus turned to Richard, his eyes cold as winter. "You are dismissed, Richard. This conversation is over." Richard looked at Jordan, conflict written across his face, then he walked out, leaving Jordan alone with Marcus Chen. And that was when everything changed. The conference room felt smaller now, suffocating in its silence. Marcus stood by the window, his back to Jordan, staring out at the glittering Manhattan skyline. The city lights stretched endlessly in every direction, a testament to power, ambition, and the ruthless pursuit of success. Jordan sat motionless, waiting. His exhaustion was bone deep now, but he refused to show weakness. Not in front of this man. Not after everything. "Do you know why I built this company?" Marcus finally said, his voice eerily calm. "I built it because I understood something that most people never learn. The world does not reward fairness. It does not reward kindness, it rewards strength. It rewards those who refuse to accept limitations." He turned around, and Jordan saw something unexpected in Marcus's eyes. Not just cruelty, but pain old and buried deep. "My father was weak," Marcus continued. "He worked in a factory for 30 years, let his bosses walk all over him, accepted every indignity with a smile and a yes, sir. He died at 53 with nothing to show for his life except a cheap watch and a funeral his family could barely afford." Marcus walked closer, leaning against the desk. "I swore I would never be like him. I would never be weak, never be vulnerable, never give anyone power over me." His eyes locked on Jordan. "And I built a company on that principle. Only the strong survive here. Only those who refuse to show weakness, refuse to ask for help, refuse to accept their limitations." "Is that what you think I am doing?" Jordan asked quietly. "Accepting my limitations, are you not?" Marcus challenged. "You want me to see past your wheelchair, to ignore it, to pretend it does not matter. But it does matter. In this world, in this business, any weakness is a liability." Jordan felt something ignite inside him, all the anger he had been suppressing, all the frustration of a lifetime of being underestimated. "You are right," Jordan said, his voice steel wrapped in silk. "My wheelchair does matter. It matters because it taught me things you will never understand. It taught me perseverance, creativity, problem-solving under impossible constraints. It taught me that obstacles are just puzzles waiting to be solved. He rolled closer to Marcus, looking up without flinching. You think strength is never needing help, never showing vulnerability, never adapting, Jordan continued, but you are wrong. Real strength is acknowledging your limitations and overcoming them anyway. Real strength is building bridges when others build walls. You have built an empire, Mr. Chen, but you have built it on fear, and fear makes you blind. Marcus's jaw tightened, but before he could respond, the conference room door burst open. Derek Santos stood there breathing hard, his face flushed with adrenaline. Behind him stood Patricia Morrison, the HR director, and another woman Jordan did not recognize, older, with silver hair and an air of absolute authority. This ends now, Derek announced. Marcus straightened, his expression shifting from introspective to furious in an instant. Get out. This is a private meeting. No, the silver-haired woman said, stepping forward. I am afraid it is not, Mr. Chen. My name is Helen Cortez. I am the head of the board's ethics committee, and I am here because serious allegations have been made against you. Marcus's face went pale, then red. What allegations? Who made them? I did, Derek said, pulling out his phone. I have been documenting everything. Every discriminatory comment, every hostile action, every attempt to force Jordan out of this program. I recorded the meeting in conference room B. I have emails, witness statements from other interns. A timeline of harassment? Patricia stepped forward, holding a tablet. We have also received complaints from 3 other employees. Past incidents that were never properly investigated. A pattern of discriminatory behavior toward anyone you perceived as weak or different. Marcus laughed. But it sounded hollow, desperate. This is ridiculous. I have built this company. I have made everyone here rich. You are going to believe some disgruntled employees over me. We are going to investigate properly, Helen said firmly. And during that investigation, you are suspended from all executive duties. Effective immediately. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Marcus looked at Jordan, and in that moment Jordan saw the mask slip completely. Behind the arrogance, behind the cruelty, there was just a scared man who had built his entire identity on never being vulnerable, never being weak, and now that foundation was crumbling. You did this, Marcus said to Jordan, his voice shaking with rage. You came into my company and destroyed everything I built. No, Jordan replied calmly. You did this to yourself. I just wanted to work, to prove my worth through my abilities. You were the one who made it personal. You were the one who let your prejudices cloud your judgment. Helen gestured to the door. Mr. Chen, you need to leave the building. Your access cards will be deactivated within the hour. You will be contacted by the board within 48 hours regarding the investigation findings. For a moment, Jordan thought Marcus might refuse, might explode in anger. But then something inside him seemed to break. His shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of him. He walked to the door, moving like a man twice his age at the threshold. He stopped and looked back at Jordan one last time. I was trying to toughen you up, Marcus said quietly. I was trying to prepare you for how cruel this world really is. No, Jordan said, meeting his eyes. You were trying to break me because my existence challenged everything you believe about strength and weakness. You were trying to prove that people like me do not belong in your world, but you were wrong. We do belong. And we are going to change what this world looks like. Marcus left without another word. The silence that followed felt different. Lighter somehow, as if a dark cloud had lifted. Patricia walked over to Jordan. I am so sorry, she said. This should never have happened. We failed you. What happens now? Jordan asked. Helen Cortez sat down across from him. Now we investigate thoroughly. We interview witnesses, review documents, examine Mr. Chen's entire history with this company. If the allegations are substantiated, and based on what I have already seen, I believe they will be, Mr. Chen will be removed from his position permanently. And Sterling Financial, Jordan asked. What happens to the company? The board will appoint an interim CEO, Helen explained. Someone who understands that true strength comes from diversity, from different perspectives, from creating an environment where everyone can contribute their best work. Derek put his hand on Jordan's shoulder. You should go home, man. You have been here for almost 12 hours. You must be exhausted. Jordan nodded, suddenly feeling the weight of everything that had happened. But there was something else he felt too. vindication, justice, hope. Thank you, Jordan said to Derek, for speaking up, for risking your career. Derek shook his head. I did not risk anything. I just did what was right. What should have been done from the beginning. As Jordan rolled toward the elevator, Rebecca and several other interns were waiting in the hallway. Word had spread quickly. You okay? Rebecca asked. Jordan smiled, genuinely this time. Yeah, I think I am. The elevator doors opened, and Jordan rode down alone, watching the floor numbers descend. 58, 57, 56. Each number taking him further from the worst night of his professional life and closer to something better. The news broke at 6 the next morning. Jordan woke to his phone buzzing with notifications. Text messages, news alerts, emails flooding his inbox. He grabbed his phone from the nightstand, squinting at the bright screen in his dark bedroom. The headline made his heart stop. Sterling Financial CEO Marcus Chen suspended amid discrimination scandal. Jordan sat up, scrolling through article after article. Financial news websites, business journals, even mainstream media had picked up the story. Someone had leaked the details to the press, and they were running with it. His phone rang. Derek's name flashing on the screen. Have you seen the news? Derek asked without preamble. I am looking at it right now, Jordan replied. How did this get out so fast? Anonymous source, Derek said. My guess is someone on the board wanted this public before Marcus could control the narrative.
The ethics committee moves fast when they smell blood in the water. Jordan found the most detailed article.
Published by the Wall Street Journal, it laid everything out. Marcus's pattern of discriminatory behavior, the illegal testing he had subjected Jordan to, the hostile work environment, quotes from anonymous employees describing years of similar treatment toward anyone Marcus deemed weak or unfit. But there was more, details Jordan had not known about. The article mentioned a lawsuit from 3 years ago, settled quietly out of court. A female executive with chronic illness who Marcus had systematically pushed out of the company. Another case from 5 years back. An employee who had suffered a stroke and returned to work with mild cognitive issues. Marcus had created such a hostile environment that the man had quit within 2 months. There was a pattern, clear and undeniable. Marcus Chen had built his empire on the belief that any form of vulnerability was incompatible with success. And he had crushed anyone who challenged that belief. Jordan's phone buzzed again. A text from Patricia Morrison. Please come to the office at 10 a.m. Board wants to speak with you. His stomach tightened. What did the board want? Was he in trouble for causing this upheaval? I have to go to the office, Jordan told Derek. The board wants to see me. Want me to come with you, Derek offered. No, Jordan said. I need to do this alone. He arrived at Sterling Tower at 9:45. The lobby felt different, charged with nervous energy. Employees huddled in small groups whispering, their faces animated with gossip and speculation. When they saw Jordan, some looked away quickly, others stared openly, recognition dawning in their eyes. He was no longer just an intern. He was the person who had brought down Marcus Chen. The elevator ride to the 58th floor felt surreal. Just 2 days ago, he had come up here as a nervous intern meeting his hero. Now he was returning to face the board of directors after destroying that same man's career. Helen Cortez met him outside the main conference room. Her expression was professional but warm. Thank you for coming, Jordan, she said. I know this has been difficult for you. What is this about? Jordan asked directly. The board wants to hear your story directly, Helen explained. They want to understand what happened, what you experienced. They also want to apologize. She opened the door, and Jordan rolled into a room filled with people he had only seen in photographs. The board of directors of Sterling Financial Group, 9 men and women who collectively controlled billions of dollars. They sat around the enormous conference table, all eyes turning to Jordan as he entered. At the head of the table sat an elderly man with white hair and sharp, intelligent eyes. Jordan recognized him as Thomas Sterling, the company's founder and largest shareholder. He had retired from active management 10 years ago, passing control to Marcus Chen. His protege, Mr. Matthews, Thomas said, his voice gravelly with age but still commanding. Please come in. Thank you for meeting with us. Jordan positioned himself at the table, feeling small and exposed under their collective gaze. First, Thomas continued, I want to apologize on behalf of this entire organization. What you experienced should never have happened. We entrusted Marcus Chen with this company's leadership, And he betrayed that trust, he betrayed our values, our ethics, and he betrayed you. The other board members nodded in agreement. We have spent the last 12 hours reviewing everything, Thomas said. Witness statements, recorded conversations, past settlements, internal complaints that were never properly addressed. The picture is clear and damning. Marcus Chen created a toxic culture based on his own warped view of strength and success. A woman to Thomas's right spoke up. We also reviewed your work, the analysis you produced under duress. It is some of the finest financial analysis we have seen. You have extraordinary talent, Mr. Matthews. Jordan did not know what to say. He had expected questions, maybe criticism, not praise. The Ethics Committee has completed its preliminary investigation, Helen said. Based on the evidence, we are recommending Marcus Chen's immediate termination. Not just suspension, the full board will vote this afternoon. But I can tell you the outcome is certain. Thomas leaned forward, his eyes intense. Marcus built this company into what it is today. I cannot deny that his brilliance, his drive, his vision. They created billions in value, but he also poisoned it. He created an environment where people were afraid to show humanity. Afraid to be anything less than perfect machines, he paused, emotion crossing his weathered face. I chose Marcus as my successor because I saw myself in him, Thomas admitted. The hunger, the ambition, the refusal to accept limitations. But I was wrong, I gave him power without wisdom, success without humility, and now we must fix what he broke, another board member, a younger man with kind eyes, spoke. We want to offer you something, Jordan, not as compensation or to buy your silence, but because we believe in your talent and your character. We want to offer you a full-time position after your internship. As a junior analyst with Derek Santos as your mentor, Jordan's breath caught. You want me to stay? More than that, Thomas said. We want you to help us rebuild this company's culture. We need people like you, people who understand that real strength includes vulnerability, that diversity makes us better, not weaker. Will you help us? Jordan looked around the table at these powerful people, these billionaires and industry titans, all waiting for his answer. He thought about Marcus Chen, about how fear and prejudice had twisted a brilliant man into something cruel. He thought about all the other people like him who had been pushed out, silenced, crushed under the weight of one man's narrow vision. I will stay, Jordan said. But I have conditions. Thomas raised an eyebrow, interested. Go on. I want Sterling Financial to implement mandatory diversity and inclusion training for all employees. Executive level down, Jordan said, his confidence growing. I want accessibility audits of all facilities. I want a formal complaint process that cannot be buried or ignored. And I want a scholarship program for students with disabilities pursuing careers in finance. He met Thomas's eyes directly. I will help you rebuild this culture, Jordan continued. But we are going to do it right. We are going to create a company where everyone can succeed based on their abilities, not be held back by people's prejudices. Silence filled the room. Then Thomas Sterling began to clap, slowly, deliberately. The other board members joined him. You have yourself a deal, Mr. Matthews, Thomas said, smiling for the first time. Welcome to Sterling Financial Group. As Jordan left the conference room an hour later, his head spinning with everything that had happened, he passed a television in the lobby. A news channel was showing footage of Marcus Chen leaving his penthouse apartment, surrounded by reporters shouting questions. Marcus looked diminished somehow, smaller than he had seemed just yesterday. His face was drawn, his expensive suit rumpled. The mask of confidence had shattered completely. Jordan felt no satisfaction in seeing him like this, no triumph, just a strange sadness for what Marcus could have been if he had chosen differently. Derek was waiting by the elevators. So, Derek said, how did it go? Jordan smiled. I just negotiated my first major deal. That is my guy, Derek said, grinning. Come on, let me buy you the most expensive coffee this company's money can buy. 3 months later, Jordan sat in his new office on the 45th floor, reviewing financial models for a major client presentation. The office was small but his, with a desk he had chosen himself, a window overlooking the Hudson River, and most importantly, a door that was wide enough for his wheelchair without any struggle. Sterling Financial Group had changed in ways both visible and invisible. The physical changes were obvious. Ramps had been installed. Automatic doors replaced heavy manual ones. Accessible restrooms appeared on every floor. Conference rooms were redesigned with flexible seating arrangements. But the deeper changes mattered more. The culture shift that Thomas Sterling had promised was actually happening. The new CEO, a woman named Jennifer Park who had previously run the company's London office, had made inclusion her top priority. She held town halls where employees could voice concerns without fear. She fired 3 senior executives who resisted the changes. She promoted people based on merit and potential rather than politics and appearances. Marcus Chen's name was rarely mentioned anymore. After his termination, he had tried to fight back, hiring expensive lawyers, threatening lawsuits, leaking stories to friendly journalists about how he was the victim of a conspiracy. But the evidence against him was overwhelming. The lawsuits went nowhere. The press turned against him. His reputation, once golden, was now permanently tarnished. Jordan had followed the news for a while, watching Marcus's fall accelerate. His board seats at other companies vanished, speaking invitations were canceled, his memoir deal was dropped by the publisher. The business world that had once celebrated him now wanted nothing to do with him. Eventually, Jordan stopped following the story. Marcus Chen was no longer relevant to his life. A knock on his door pulled Jordan from his thoughts. Derek poked his head in, grinning. "You ready for the presentation?" Derek asked. "As ready as I will ever be," Jordan replied, saving his work. They were presenting to Meridian Manufacturing, the same company Marcus had used to test Jordan that terrible night. After the board had reviewed Jordan's analysis, they had been so impressed they had actually pursued Meridian as a client. Now Jordan was leading the engagement, implementing his own recommendations. The presentation went flawlessly. Jordan walked the Meridian executives through the restructuring plan, answered their questions with confidence and expertise, showed them exactly how his strategy would save their company. By the end, they were nodding, smiling, clearly convinced. "This is exceptional work, Mr. Matthews," the Meridian CEO said, shaking Jordan's hand. "You have given us hope when we thought there was none. We will move forward with your plan." Back in his office, Jordan allowed himself a moment of pride. He had done it, not just survived, but thrived. He had proven that his wheelchair did not define his capabilities, that his worth was measured by his mind, his work, his character. His phone buzzed, a text from Rebecca, who now worked in the mergers and acquisitions department. "Coffee tomorrow morning? I have gossip." Jordan smiled, typing back, "Always." The other interns from his cohort had all received job offers. Sterling Financial was keeping its promises, creating opportunities, building a better culture. They met regularly for coffee or lunch, a tight-knit group bonded by shared experience. As the sun began to set over the Hudson, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Jordan's phone rang. An unknown number. He almost declined, but something made him answer. "Hello?" There was a pause, then a voice he recognized immediately. "Jordan, this is Marcus Chen." Jordan's hand tightened on the phone. He had not spoken to Marcus since that night in the conference room. "What do you want?" Jordan asked, keeping his voice neutral. Marcus paused, seeming to struggle with the words. "I wanted to apologize. I know it is too late. I know it does not change anything. But you deserve to hear it." Jordan said nothing, waiting. "I have spent these months in therapy," Marcus continued, his voice different than Jordan remembered, quieter, more human. "Trying to understand why I did what I did, why I treated you the way I treated you. My therapist says I was projecting my own fears onto you, that your wheelchair triggered something in me, reminded me of my father's weakness, reminded me of everything I was terrified of becoming." "That is not an excuse," Jordan said. "No, it is not," Marcus agreed. "There is no excuse for what I did. I was cruel. I was discriminatory. I abused my power. I tried to break you because your strength threatened my entire worldview. I am sorry, Jordan. I am truly, deeply sorry." Jordan looked out his window at the city lights beginning to twinkle in the dusk. He thought about everything that had happened, the pain, the humiliation, the exhaustion. But he also thought about where he was now, what he had accomplished, how he had changed an entire company. "I accept your apology," Jordan said finally. Not because you deserve forgiveness, but because I deserve peace. What you did was wrong. It hurt me, but it also revealed your character and tested mine. I passed that test. You did not. I know, Marcus said quietly. For what it is worth. I read about the changes at Sterling. The scholarship program, the inclusion initiatives. Jennifer told me you were the driving force behind most of it. You are doing what I should have done, building instead of destroying. What will you do now? Jordan asked. Marcus laughed, a sad sound. I honestly do not know. No company will hire me. Not at the executive level. My reputation is destroyed. Maybe that is justice. Maybe I needed to lose everything to understand what really matters. There was a long silence. I hope you find your way, Jordan said, meaning it. I hope you become the person you could have been. Thank you, Marcus replied. And Jordan, for what it is worth, you were right. Real strength is not about never showing weakness. It is about overcoming obstacles, about adapting, about staying human even when the world tries to make you hard. I wish I had learned that sooner. They said goodbye, and Jordan set down his phone. He sat there for a long time, thinking about strength and weakness, about justice and mercy, about how people can change when they finally stop running from their fears. Derek appeared in the doorway again. Hey, a bunch of us are going out for drinks to celebrate the Meridian deal. You coming? Jordan smiled. Yeah, I am coming. As he rolled toward the elevator, Jordan passed the wall where employee photos were displayed. His picture was there now, along with everyone else who worked at Sterling Financial, junior analyst. The caption read, but Jordan knew he was more than that title. He was proof that the world could change, that barriers could be broken, that strength came in forms people did not always recognize. The elevator descended, carrying him down from the tower toward the street, toward his friends, toward his life. Outside, the November air was crisp and cool. The city hummed with energy. Millions of people pursuing their dreams, fighting their battles, finding their way. Rebecca waved from across the street, standing with 5 other former interns, all smiling, all waiting for him. Jordan rolled toward them, toward friendship, toward belonging, toward a future he had earned. He had walked into Sterling Tower 3 months ago as an intern, desperate to prove himself. He had faced discrimination, cruelty, and injustice. He had been tested in ways he never imagined, and he had won, not by becoming hard, not by hiding his vulnerability, not by accepting the world as it was, but by staying true to himself, by demanding better, by showing everyone that real strength includes compassion, that true success means lifting others up, that the best companies are built on human dignity, not just profit margins. As Jordan joined his friends, their laughter filling the cool night air, he felt something he had not felt in a long time. Not just pride, not just satisfaction, but hope. Hope that the world was changing one person at a time, one company at a time, one courageous choice at a time, and he had been part of that change. That was worth more than any corner office, any title, any amount of money. That was the real victory.